Has the legacy media become terminally lazy? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. The Twitter files have not died yet. They are simply on vacation. Matt Taibbi announced that 2 evenings ago, but he also took time to criticize the legacy media for their biggest fault, sheer laziness. But is it really laziness, or did they simply show their true colors by trying to suppress the Twitter files? Either way, they proved how unreliable they are and why the American people should get their news from someone else, as Americans are now doing. Before I discuss the thread and the even more damning reaction to it, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, including especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which quotes Aldous Huxley as saying, "Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored." Hold that thought. It's going to come up today. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon every time to get a notice every time I come up with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. And now, Matt Taibbi calls this Twitter file 16, probably because he never did count the big pharma Twitter file and put that by Lee Fong and put that into any sequence. Twitter files 15, according to Matt, is the Hamilton 68 file. That in itself shows the laziness of the legacy media. Hamilton 68 was and is an instrument of the real-life ministry of truth. Any media organ accepting its output at face value should fire its editorial board and remake itself from scratch, or else admit or avow their role as government propaganda organs. To quote the latest expression on the right, simple as. From Hamilton 68 to the Hunter Biden laptop story, the Twitter files produced a lot of newsworthy content. You've heard me talk about it from the beginning, but the legacy media have not talked about it. It is as if they want to ignore it, but of course that's why I chose today's t-shirt. Aldous Huxley really did say, facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. And the most interesting fact the legacy media would like the people to forget is that they were all cheering from the sidelines while all this was going on. They cheered the election of Joe Biden. And even when his cognitive difficulty became manifest, they still have no regrets. Trump would have been an order of magnitude worse. Worse for whom? Likewise, Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania is now in hospital, suffering from clinical depression. He never even made Google Trends, though Senator Dianne Feinstein of California did with her on-again, off-again retirement announcement. With those latest examples of lazy legacy media in mind, I have links in the description to the odd-numbered tweets in Matt Taibbi's latest thread, which has 17 tweets in all, so I've furnished 9. And as ever, I'm going to read it to you. Twitter file 16, Comic Interlude, a media experiment. The Twitter files have revealed a lot. Thousands of moderation requests from every corner of government. Feds mistaking, both conservatives and leftists for fictional Russians. Even Twitter deciding on paper to cede moderation authority to the U.S. intelligence community. These and at least a dozen other newsworthy revelations produced exactly zilch in mainstream news coverage in the past 2 months. Then, House hearings were held last week, in which one witness told a story about Donald Trump asking to remove a mean tweet by Chrissy Teigen. And by the way, that tweet was more than mean. It was flat out not safe for work. Enough said about that. and the press went bananas. Now that was big news. Purely to show the bankruptcy of media in this area, let's introduce a pair of loud new data points and see if any press figures at all cover either of them. If a president freaking out about one tweeter is news, surely a United States senator thinking on 300 plus of his constituents also must be. Here is Senator Angus King, independent from Maine, writing to Twitter to call a slew of accounts suspicious for reasons like Rand Paul visit excitement, bot averages 20 tweets a day, being followed by rival Eric Brakey, or, my personal favorite, mentions immigration. King's office declined comment. If Dick Nixon sniffed glue, this is what his enemies list might look like. Now here he links to a spreadsheet on Google Docs listing a big, long list of Facebook accounts somebody seems to have wanted banned. So as not to focus only on Dems or those who caucus with Democrats, here's a contribution from Republican Mark Lindsay, a State Department official, most famous for offering to donate his brain to science after a claim brush with Havana syndrome. Now that's a factitious disorder allegedly common to business travelers. Lindsay wrote to Twitter bluntly asking to remove 14 accounts distinguished among other things by skepticism of Russiagate. The below are some Russian-controlled accounts that I think you will want to look into and delete. A government official writing from a State Department email asked to delete 14 accounts that are engaged in legitimate speech and for which no evidence is shown that they are Russian-controlled or that they're bots. In fact, we at Racket know of some of these people. A clear First Amendment issue. I noted before, there were many crazy requests in Twitter records from officials wanting foes taken off Twitter. With Californian Adam Schiff's effort to ban a reporter and stop any and all search results about a staffer making Angus King's spreadsheet gambit look tame. The fact that mainstream outlets ignored the Schiff story but howled about Tigan shows what they are about. Responses like this are designed to keep blue-leaning audiences especially focused on moronic, partisan spats, obscuring bigger picture narratives. The real story emerging in the Twitter files is about a ballooning federal censorship bureaucracy that is not aimed at either the left or the right per se, but at the whole population of outsiders who are being systematically defined as threats. Beginning in March, we'll start using the Twitter files to tell this larger story about how Americans turned their counter-terrorism machinery against themselves to disastrous effect through little-known federal agencies like the Global Engagement Center, or the GEC. I've talked about that before. Until then, if you found yourself on King's list, please direct message me or write into Racket News. I'm on vacation next week, but we'll mock up Angus King told Twitter I was suspicious and all I got was this lousy shirts when I get back. Thanks to Twitter Files contributors like Mike Schellenberger and Lee Fang, and thanks also to Racket researchers. Searches were performed by a third party and material may have been left out. End of thread. Now, I wouldn't recommend trying to follow the link in the tweet to Racket News. Instead, I've left a link in the description that I've tested and it will work better. But I verified through the Wayback Machine which site he wanted people to reach. Reaction varies from praise to sarcasm, with the latter seemingly rooted in ignorance. Before I sample it, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. And now, about that reaction. A certain user accused Matt Taibbi of selective leaking for political purposes and spoke of mountains of evidence against the right that Matt Taibbi allegedly ignored. My own Twitter friend War Clandestine said right back at him that, and I quote, "Just because the outcome shows corruption by the left doesn't mean it was politically motivated. We caught the Democratic National Committee conspiring with the intelligence community, who conspire with private tech companies to circumvent the Constitution. And here you are still defending them." I will close the curtain of charity on how War Clandestine closed his tweet. Anyway, I've left a link in the description. Just watch out for the last part right at the bottom. Maybe just better. Don't read that far. Another Twitter user who goes by the name Sparta Justice took the occasion to advertise 2 videos, each more than 50 minutes long, alleging crimes against humanity relating to the virus that shall remain nameless. I've left a link in the description to the second tweet, which will immediately give you access to the first one. I think you should play these videos. Now, here's an interesting exchange that a user calling herself Cindy L. Arnovic got into with 2 users. I've left links in the description to 2 tweets from that exchange, which will give you access to the entirety of the exchange. And I'm going to quote it because I think you should hear this. CLA, you realize no one except the Republican Oversight Committee cares about this. You demonstrated with the first set you released that it was all about hype and not about substance. There is a difference between an ask to evacuate the accuracy of an account versus changing policy for Trump, close quote. Then another person said simply that this was the biggest story of the decade. So CLA tees off again, quote, how a private company chose to operate it perhaps was a bit biased, but hurt no one. Hurt no one. And she says, I would say Fox News story where a private company definitely showed bias by lying and spreading information, all to keep the stock price upside far bigger, close quote. Well, there you have it. This is how people really think. So someone else asked, quote, why are you defending censorship? You do realize it's illegal for political parties to do this, right? You do realize there's a trial against former Twitter employees right now, don't you? Your tweets are painful. You literally are the reason our country is so corrupt. Close quote. That user is right, too. Justice Clarence Thomas said it. Whenever the government asks any actor, however private, to do that which the government may not do itself, because the Constitution forbids it, the government is wrong. And the private actor is just as wrong to grant the favor. I've left 4 more tweets that show you some more about how some people think or emote. A user whom I will not name actually asked Taibbi whether Elon Musk was, and I quote, forcing his text to make us see Matt Taibbi's tweets more. Immediately, a second user asked this person whether he didn't like the truth and would really rather have Twitter as it was pre-Musk. Then a third user, and again, I'm not going to name that person, said, quote, what's the truth? Asking Twitter to de-amplify conspiracy theorists? There's nothing wrong with that request. I have yet to see any threats which would make it a violation, close quote. Now, I will just say to that user, who knows who he is, that I might like to hear from him after the case of Missouri versus Biden goes to oral argument before the Supreme Court, and especially after the Supreme Court decides that case. Immediately, the second user came back saying, quote, freedom of speech. There is no de-amplify. Don't like what you're reading? Don't follow them or whoever is retweeting on your timeline. Picking and choosing from the government what is to be seen more or less is not freedom, close quote. So this user shot back, quote, you're misinterpreting freedom of speech, much like Elon Musk and Matt is doing. A private company has the right to decide what content they allow on their platform. Sure, the government can request conspiracy theorists to be suspended without threats, and it's up to the platform. Well, the heck it is. You heard Justice Thomas. Now, then a fourth user broke in, and he said, you're misinterpreting Twitter files, much like most of the two cult party members are. Elon, owner of the private company Twitter, is exposing the government intervention on free speech. Old Twitter is just also being exposed for the part they play. It's information, not a call for Twitter to be investigated for censoring free speech. Journalism is about reporting information and facts, not handing out justice. The fact that you can't comprehend this is concerning. I'll say it is, but I repeat, this matter is already in the federal courts. And now my analysis. Matt Taibbi is correct. The legacy media showed not only laziness, but also selective outrage. The only argument I would give him is that the censorship apparatus is aimed at the right, at the behest of the left. It's just that all those on the outside are on the right. Likewise, the permanent political class are now all leftists or cozy with them. The sarcasm masquerading as skepticism on the part of certain Twitter users is worse. Clearly, some people want to live under the conspiratorial censors. They surely do this from one of three motives: deriving a benefit from the conspirators' activities, thinking they derive such a benefit when in fact the conspirators take them for useful idiots, or not wanting to face facts, including the hollow crack of broken promises. This matter will, as I said, play out in court. In the meantime, the exposure of unconstitutional government activity and acquiescence therein by common carriers will continue. Links to the description of the article, to the thread, to Racket News, that's a good link, to 8 tweets altogether in reaction to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and oursilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to the Twitter Files playlist and to at least one other video about social media companies being state actors. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another Declaration of Truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.